This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
I'm Jay Mathis, and this is Your Playbook, where we break down the behaviors, attitudes, and techniques top performers use every day to achieve their version of success. I invite you to join me for every episode as I talk with my friends who are leaders from various industries and walks of life, learning about their playbook and what habits, mindsets, and strategies shape their business and personal life. Hey, so welcome to Your Playbook. I'm Jay Mathis. I'm real excited about today. I'm going to introduce you to someone I've just got to know in the last 9 months for a particular reason. But our guest today is Dave Mattson with Sandler. So welcome, David. Glad you're on the show today.
Hey, thanks, Jay. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I mentioned that I've known you about 9 months. That's because I bought a Sandler franchise back in August of 2024. And you and I met at my initial training up there in Baltimore. Learned a little bit about you then, but I want to kind of give you the opportunity to introduce yourself. I could sit there and read off a sheet or what I might know about you, but give us a little story of David Mattson and your business life and what you've been doing.
Business life work. Okay, so I have been with Sandler for 38 years. So
Yeah.
I've been with Sandler a long time. I was a client, so I went to Sandler because I thought you would be successful in life if you were a hard worker.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily true. So because it was just brute force, the company that I worked for sent me to be trained. Happened to be Sandler. To be honest, I was resistant in the beginning. I really wasn't prepared. But here nor there, I became their number one salesperson by using Sandler. And so then I said to myself, wow, that really works. I'm going to go and work for the local trainer. And because the best way to become a machine is to work for the machine. And so I went to work for the Jay Mathis of Connecticut and did that for 2 years. And then during that time frame, though, I had the opportunity to interact with Dave Sandler.
Okay.
And so Dave Sandler, founder of our company, wrote the material. I saw him on stage because I was going down to Baltimore, Maryland 4 times a year for our conferences, and I listened to all the audios back then, and I was really into it. And when he was looking for somebody, Jay, to train the trainers, I said, I'd love that job. I'd love to go work for this guy. He's like the man. And so I went down to work for Dave Sandler, and that was in 1988. So I went to work for Dave Sandler and trained the trainers, became his partner. So I bought 25% of the company in 1994. And I had lots of different roles. So I trained the trainers, as I said. I did the speaking circuit. So I went over to Europe, spent 2 years there for David, doing seminars there because I have an accent. I'm from New England, so I'm sarcastic.
You're close. Yes, you fit
quick.
well.
Yeah, I talk quick, so over in London, it was great. And so I came back and I had a lot of different roles here, running national accounts and things of that nature. But I ended up buying 50% of the company in 2007 and becoming CEO. So David had passed in 1995, unfortunately. And most of the times, Jay, what typically happens is, when a founder passes in our industry, you tend to, the business tends to suffer. And it didn't suffer with Sandler the way he'd set it up. And so, I was in business now with his wife and his stepson. I was a non-family member in 2000, between 95 when David passed and then 2007. So I bought David's wife out in 2007. So now I own 50% of the company. I ran the business. I was with Bruce, his stepson. And then in 2012, I bought him out as well.
Okay.
So then I became the sole stockholder from 2012 on, and then took some chips off the table in 2022.
Okay.
So we've morphed the company 3 or 4 times since then, just because the environment's changed.
Well, and particularly 2020 and 2022, those were pivotal years, obviously because of COVID, but also because of the investors you brought in. Am I right? That kind of helped really launch Sandler to new heights. And I feel like coming in August, I'm seeing things that are brand new, right? I mean, I'm experiencing a growth pattern that's really pretty remarkable in Sandler. Would that be true, timeline wise?
Well, again, you've got to stay current in this world, and because we're in 31 different countries with so many different age groups, I mean, we're working with 50,000 people a year, and because of that, Jay. You've got to make sure you're on the cutting edge. So now what you're seeing is all the AI stuff coming out, right? Like,
Yes.
okay, how are we incorporating AI and how are we incorporating all this stuff that, because of the technology revolution, for lack of another word, that's happened since 2020, the world's changing and changing rapidly.
Yes,
so
it
we've
is.
been very aggressive, staying current, but really trying to figure out where the puck is going, Jeff.
What do you think with that whole AI conversation? Are we getting over the hump where people are saying, oh, kind of acting nervous about it? Are we getting over that and getting to a new state where business owners, salespeople are now embracing it more than even just past months and years? Because I felt that tension for a long time. Maybe we're past that.
Yeah, I think we're past that. I think we're almost to the exact opposite now.
Yeah.
Somewhere we're going to have to swing back into the center. What I mean by exact opposite is they went from, and this too shall pass, this AI stuff, it'll be gone, it'll be no big deal. And that's what you're talking about. And then it swung to, oh my gosh, AI can do everything I don't like to do. Oh, AI can pick up the phone. Oh, AI can do all the reports I hate. And so now AI is the catchphrase for, let's do all the things that I hate doing. Let's let AI do it. And so I think that part's not 100% accurate. So we've got to move center and use it as an effective tool versus now I think AI is the scapegoat for a lot of stuff.
And I think that's the word tool, right? It is a tool in our toolbox, whatever industry we're in, right? I was talking to a roofing company earlier today, and I mentioned AI role play and thinking through that. And you could tell their eyes were like, oh, okay, that's new, but I'm mentioning it as a tool, not to replace certain things. And that when you talk, and I've just been around you in person once and seen you at conferences, but what is it after 38 years? What would you say your sweet spot is that if you could do it all the time, would get the greatest amount of success? Like where do you really shine, do you think, where you're at in your state of your career? Like, what do you love the most?
I'm probably going to give you a multi-prong answer here. Okay. So what do I love to do? I love helping new offices get off the ground and become as successful as they can as quickly as possible. So whether you call that coaching / training, mentoring, love doing that. I get a huge amount of satisfaction in connecting dots. Like, okay, here's the issue. Here's all the other stuff. Like, how do we simplify that? And then what's the path forward? Like, I love doing that. Like just getting rid of all the white noise. Like, okay, we don't need to know that. That's nice to have. Okay, I hear it, but let's try to come over here and then simplify it and create a plan forward. Yeah. I love doing that. And I just love like checking out what's new. Like, and by the way, I'm not an early adopter, so that's not my thing, but I am super curious about what's coming down the pike and then how does it affect our business? But I think, if it's coaching, I think coaching training would be one. Connecting dots certainly is problem solving is probably my next superpower.
Yeah. Well, that goes along with Sandler Training as well. Problem solving, right? So you work through that pain funnel of, where we're going next. I want to ask you just about your success in terms of, because I think this relates to so many, really anybody listening, but building a team over these years, working in a virtual setting. I know you have kind of spread out offices. You have people on staff that are all over the country, I think. What has been the strategy there that's made that very successful? And by the way, I think it has proved successful. I think people like myself and others feel very engaged in the company and people are accessible. So what have you found to be the strategies that's made that successful for Sandler?
As far as leveraging remote.
Yeah, being remote and growing, it seems like rather fast in the last number of years, a lot of growth. So fast growth and virtual growth.
Yeah, so let's do growth first. One is I think that we take some time ahead of the, whatever we decide the goal is to make sure that our ducks are in a row. Like we don't want to just, hey, that's the goal. Why aren't we hitting it? We want to make sure it's realistic and we have a path forward, right? So that's there. But what I learned from Dave Sandler early on is about every time we're about 70% to goal, whatever that is, it doesn't have to be a money goal, is that we move the flag. Like we stretch it out even further. So Jay, I'll use an example. When you work out, if you lift weights as an example, and you say, I'm going to do 10, somewhere around 7 or 8, you're like, 8, 9. But if you say, okay, I'm going to do 15 reps you go right through 10, like there's no tomorrow. Then it's like 40, 40,
Yeah.
50.
Yep.
So it's kind of weird how your head allows you to break through certain things. So what Sandler used to do is to say, if I was 70% towards a goal, Sandler would move it out even further.
Mm.
Now, not to demotivate me, because we would celebrate the successes, but what I found was I was blowing through the goals that I was struggling to get to at the end and blow right through it. And so what we've successfully done, we do 180 projects per year, like big projects. And we're constantly moving that flag to stretch ourselves to get farther and farther. So I think that's been a huge success. I think for the growth also, though, is we have a village, right? So yes, we train 50,000 people, but we have hundreds of awesome practitioners like yourself. And so they give us tons of good information, and we listen, right? We listen and we adjust quickly. Like, we do not bring our ego to the table. If we think it's going to be improved, even though we spent a lot of time and energy getting to where it is, we will throw that out in 5 seconds and try to find a better way to get that done. Because the end result is far more important to us, Jay, than the ego of saying, yes, we created a plan, we stayed to the plan, we didn't deviate from the plan. And I think that's always helped. Now, remote, as an example, hey, we were 100%, let's just do prior to 2020, we were 100% face-to-face training.
Yeah.
And from March 20th, which was really when that kind of shut down, all the way to June, we did over 3,000 virtual boot camps, like overnight. And I think that because we have entrepreneurs that are always adjusting and scaling and being ready for the worst case scenarios, it was easier for us. I think the real big benefit of virtual is that the clients actually convinced themselves that they could be trained and coached virtually. Up to 2020, Jay, no one would agree. No, I'm flying my people in for a 2-day boot camp. Now they'd be like, flying people in for a 2-day boot camp.
Why would I do that? Yeah.
Why am I doing that? And so they took that event for people to get their heads around that there's a better way to do it. I mean, think even the stuff that we take for granted now, like Zoom. All right, well, Zoom's been around for a long, long time. Nobody really was using Zoom the way they use it post-COVID. I mean, let's just be honest, right? So we're all trying to find these ways forward, but we have definitely scaled. It's all, it's planned growth, but at the same time, we're always adjusting because we don't, as I said, we don't try to take our ego into, did we follow the plan? It's the end result tends to be more important to us, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's interesting, Dave, if COVID had not happened, if the shutdowns had not happened, I don't know I don't think we'd be where we are today doing the very things we do on a regular basis. I mean, the building I'm in Waco, Texas, I trained 2 people in this building, and I did it from an office across the street, and they did it from here and in a coffee shop. Like I would see them literally walking by on their way to get in their virtual meeting, and not because we didn't like each other and want to do that. It was a highly efficient and very effective. And they were on the call with people from other cities. So I don't see how we would have gotten there had not been forced to get there and then just made it a part of normalcy. I want to go back at what you said, and you quote Sandler a lot because he wasn't just the founder of the company. He was your friend. He schooled you in a lot of things. But that 70% rule, I'm trying to think if I've heard other people say that kind of comment. You get to 70% and you move the flag, but you said it well. You said what happened is by the time you were getting to that last 30%, you pushed through very fast because now you were on to the next one, which I think is a principle that should not be overlooked. I mean, I don't know if Sandler brands that sort of mentality, but it certainly makes a lot of sense. And in sales training, that makes a lot of sense, obviously, in moving that flag out constantly.
Well, I mean, think about sales leaders or owners as an example. When you say, okay, hey, we're going to pay X for anything above 100% of quota. Well, Salesforce stops complaining about even trying to get to quota, right? I mean, they're now saying, wow, how do I go to 120? How do I get to 150 of quota? Because now there's huge payouts coming my way. And the whole mindset changes. The framework changes in their head. And, maybe they end up at 115% of quota, but they were complaining back in October that they were stretching to get to 80%. So a
Yeah.
lot to be said for that
No,
concept.
I think, yeah, it certainly works in that. And you have to artificially set it in other ways. One of the things that at Sandler, there's a principle that I think transcends every industry, and that is that principle of reinforcement. We know in sales training, it's constantly reinforced weekly, monthly, in the way we coach and we train, because people are prone to forget things, right? They're prone to forget what they're learning. Um, Talk to us a little more just about why that is so essential. Maybe take that a little broader, and maybe even how it impacts every industry. This concept of reinforcement may be new to some people.
Well, I mean, look, if you're dealing with humans, then just reading a memo and saying you will act differently starting tomorrow just doesn't happen.
No.
If you have kids, and I've got 5, it doesn't happen that way, right? So
Right.
it takes repetition, takes time. It also takes time for you to incubate, like, where am I? What do I need to do to change? And then you've got fear, doubt, and worry all going on inside. So there's a bunch of stuff going
Yep.
on that has nothing to do with logic, right? I know I
Yeah.
have to make a shift. So when we're talking about changing your mindset, changing the behaviors, changing the words that you use as a leader, as a salesperson, well, a couple things happen. One, from the reinforcement model, I may go to a program today, Jay, and only really focus in on that opening 5 minutes of a call as a good example. But so much other stuff was said, but it's not sinking in because I'm really focused on that gap. So when I go next time, yeah, I hear that. It's good reinforcement, but I'm also now hearing something new. I can't tell you.
Yeah.
I went to 6 of the sales boot camps when I was a client early on, and I would go to the Sandler trainer and say, "Hey, that's new stuff. Where'd that come from?" He goes, "David,
He's like, no.
I said the same
That's
thing
right.
every single
That's right.
time." Like, wow. So I think that's there as well. But if you even think about gym as an analogy for a second, going to the gym, I can go to the gym once a month, once a quarter. Okay, well, I'm going to do nothing except get sore. But if I'm going to the gym a couple times a week, I have the ability now I'm making change because I can see progress, whether it's negative or positive. I can see that something is changing, and then I get to adjust.
That's
If
exactly
you don't
right.
reinforce it, then nothing happens fast enough. You can't readjust. All you do is say, "This won't work."
Yes, that's
This
exactly
won't
right.
work.
You know what's interesting about it? So many areas of life, we do it intuitively. We work out multiple days a week.
That's right.
We invest every month in retirement. We go to religious services every week, whatever it is, right? And
Yeah.
yet, when it comes to sales, we think, I'll just go somewhere, get it, and be done.
One
And
and done.
of course,
Well, think about professional sports as an example. The people are spending tens of millions of dollars a year still go to boot camp, still go to practice. They
yes,
still practice they practice like the play that they've done a million times. Why?
yes,
Because you want it to be muscle memory. You want it to just be spontaneous versus what should I say? What should I do?
right.
You want to just react, right? Be agile. And so think about the college athletes that get drafted and say, made it. I've made it. I don't have to practice. They're out of the league. within
They
a
don't
year.
make it.
I mean, they're
No.
done.
Yep.
Yeah, you've got to work 5 times harder. And man, I tell you, that's probably one of the greatest things that I witnessed when I watched him. He was a behavioral machine, and he was at the top of his game. But he acted like, hey, behavior, get back to the basics. And his whole thing would practice, and then forget it and be yourself when you're in front of the prospect.
Yeah, because then it becomes natural. It's just who you are. Of course, we have to give a shout out to his book. You can't teach a kid to ride a bicycle at a seminar. And the whole premise of that was exactly what we're talking about. I mean, you can show them how to ride a bike. You can model it for them, maybe get them moving a little bit. But in terms of actually riding it and being comfortable and not falling, I've watched my grandkids, as you have watched kids, fall and skiff their, mess up their knee, and they get back on it. It takes a while. And so it does as well as that. I will say this. You've given the analogy twice about working out. I've gone for a long period where I haven't worked out, but I've gone back to the gym, and it's so interesting, Dave. I'm using a equipment called eGym, and I don't know who invented this, but man, it is the best thing I've ever done because it's doing exactly what you're saying. It monitors everything you do, checks where you're at every 6 weeks, and there's this repetition, and it becomes exciting. Actually, it's building my behaviors. It's keeping my attitude up. It's showing me a good technique, and it plays right into kind of what I think forms a lot of the foundation of Sandler, which is those 3 words, right? Like our behaviors, our attitude, techniques. You referred to mindset a while ago. So those are principal words of Sandler, part of our success model and the methodology that we train on. But when it comes to you and your life and your success in leading this, which of those, I'm going to ask this question, which one comes most natural for you, and which one has been the one that you have to lean into more, if that makes sense? Some people tend to be very behavioral driven. Some positive attitude comes natural. The techniques, which would you say is your strength, and which is the one you've had to strive at more?
Well, I gravitated towards technique first before I even understood the correlation between the other two. Like I was a technique hound in the beginning.
Really? Okay.
But I also found myself relearning it 500 times because it wasn't sticking over time. Or the issue was, Jay, I would learn it in situation A, a technique for situation A. The technique works for many other situations, but I didn't make the jump between, I could also set an agenda on a phone call.
Yep. Wow.
And
yes.
I didn't realize that. So I was very situationally, like blinders on. What comes naturally for me? Probably after, I understood that in order to obtain and maintain success, you need behavior and mindset with the technique. Mindset attitude was my second. That was the easiest for me. Now I say that, but I do have, look, my parents, they brought me up to be super respectful, answer all the questions, don't talk to strangers, all the things that we teach our kids.
Yeah.
And then I go into sales, and I'm supposed to talk to every stranger known to mankind. I'm supposed to be
about their money.
Asking tough questions, and all the things that my mom said were super rude. And so you've got a lot of baggage going on. But for me as a leader, I always expected the worst. Not from necessarily people all the time, but I'm just saying, like, I expected that not to work out, whatever that project was or that scenario. So I would do everything humanly possible with contingencies and this and what about this and adjusting to make sure that didn't happen. And so my mindset was, be overly prepared. My mindset was have contingencies, expect this is not going to work out. What are you going to do? As then, the other ones that I would go into is I had this mindset of battles and wars, and that wasn't being confrontational, but everything is not a war, So when I was leading the company, people would say, "Oh, David, I'll do it like a big that particular organization stealing Sandler material. You've got to go after them." Like, well, that's a war. That takes a lot of mental energy. It takes financial. There's a lot of stuff going on here, and so, but people around you, everything's a war. We should do X, go after it, even if it's clients. And to me, I think people generalize a lot, and they also fantasize about things that may not be true. So I try to work on only what I can control, right? And only deal with the facts that as we know them today. Just because this happened does not mean that 2 + 2 is 150, which is easy to jump to.
Sure.
So, some of that mindset stuff, attitude stuff for me was a lot easier than behavior, because for behavior took discipline.
Yes.
And sometimes you don't see the payoff of behavior fast enough. Like I can go on a diet, right? But if I eat 3 pieces of chocolate cake tonight, I'm not going to see me lose or gain weight. I'm going to be like, what does it matter?
What does it matter? That's right. Yeah. No, that's exactly right. So would you say, and this is for you personally, would you say that, do you think attitude drives behavior or behavior drives attitude, or are they two separate things? Like what technique seems different because I can learn it. But which one tends to drive you the most? Like,
well, I mean, there's just a couple different questions there. I would say in order to lock your attitude or to change it or to cement it, I think behavior is the grease that gets that done. Right? Because I can have a great mindset or I'm not behaving, it doesn't much matter.
Yeah.
I could do great behavior, but if I'm having call reluctance or no technique, it doesn't necessarily work. So I do think behavior drives attitude. I think it's easier to have an attitude, good attitude first. You
Yeah.
fool yourself that you have a good one and back it up. But I do think that behavior will drive attitude. Look, let's just do running for a second. I hate running. Like, I see no social redeeming value in running, to be honest. And so I don't wake up and say, hey, it's raining. Today's a great day to run.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. And feel good about it. No. But if I just get out the front door and make it past the driveway, eventually I'm like, okay, I hate this, but it's not okay. It's not so bad. I can work with it for another X amount. And then my head kind of changes, and then I kind of love it because my endorphins are kicking in and everything's okay. But so I do think it's there. I think the problem is with humans and with leaders, it's that we don't hold people accountable to the behaviors because we don't even know what the behaviors are necessary to hit that success level of whatever it is. We've never broken it up that way. All we say is, go do your technique, close more business. Hey, have a healthy, hey, you should feel good about yourself. Have a healthy, positive mental attitude. Oh, okay. Got it. But I do think that we struggle as leaders to get our head around what's the necessary behavior on a daily basis to succeed.
Well, and who's going to hold us accountable to that? And we hold ourselves accountable, but leaders struggle because who holds them accountable? I mean, they're bored. Their employees don't. That seems odd. So I think that self-accountability, we're seeing a lot of peer-to-peer groups now of leaders getting together to create that kind of accountability. They're saying they want to grow their business, this 10X, everybody's talking about growing 10, you want to do it, but unless someone holds you accountable to the behaviors and attitudes and techniques to get there, 10X probably isn't going to happen. Dave, I don't know if I told you when I met you that years ago, and I know y'all have worked with insurance companies and stuff, Sandler has over the years, but I was with Mass Mutual. And when I joined them, I'd already been in the business, but they said, well, even still, for the first 6 months, you got to meet every month with our sales manager and a handful of other agents who are relatively new and report your numbers. I said, okay. Mm-hmm. And they said, well, we don't mean like just commissions. That's just an outgrowth of your behavior. We want points. And so they had a point system. I don't know if you remember the Al Granum's point system.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, I tell the people to this day, when I was counting behavioral points is what it was really, I made more money than ever in my life because I would have to put those up on the screen next to 5 other people's numbers that were better or worse on any given day, and then be held accountable because they would say, well, I see you got 10 referrals, but you didn't set any new appointments. What's going on there? Is that call reluctance? And so it was so powerful. So for me, that behavioral, because I'm a rather spontaneous person, the behavior, the discipline I have to lean into that more. Are you finding that with your franchisees that, they tend to err one way or the other based on maybe personality or whatever?
Well, I would say there's 2 things as you're talking. First of all, people work harder for somebody else than they do themselves sometimes. Right? It's easy to fool yourself. It's Friday. It's 2:00. No one's going to be around.
Right.
Cold call. But if I had to get 6 more points using your thing, then I would sit there until I got the points because the points are the things that will drive you. So I think one is we work harder for that than we do ourselves sometimes. The second thing is that when you have a behavioral plan like that and you're going for points, you didn't make a sale, but you celebrated the fact that you hit your points.
Absolutely. Because the sale will get there eventually.
Yeah, it's a daily success versus waiting that 6 to 8 weeks, 6 to 8 months, whatever it is, for that sale to happen. Well, you get wiped out along the way. But from a self-esteem perspective, I win every time I do my behavior. Now, you've got to make sure that you mathematically work out your behavior to get to the end result. Right. But at the end of the day, it's good for your head, right? It's good for your head and you pay attention to it. So I think that's there. Now, you asked me about all of our people around the world. I think for the most part, they would probably gravitate towards behavior because we're such behavioralists, right? We believe in behavior so much. I think most would tell you that that's probably where they gravitate in their strong suit. And of course, that's the one that I said was my least. Let me just say up front, it's continuous improvement. Thank goodness for reinforcement because I have to keep going because that's the one I have to muscle my way through at the end of the day.
I'm glad to know we're brothers on that because it can beat down for me sometimes. I'm the 2:00 on Friday afternoon going, yeah, but come on. I mean, what are we really going to accomplish? I had a friend one time years ago, 4 cell phones. His office was being moved from one floor to another, and he took his call list. He went to a payphone and kept making phone calls because his phone were disconnected for a few hours. And I said, "Are you crazy? Why don't you just wait till the phone moves?" He goes, "Because I got to make these calls today." I mean and so I mean, he was literally dropping quarters into this sounds so antiquated, but quarters into a payphone to do that. And for him, he ends his day. That's a win. I don't know if he closed any business that day, but that's how that strong behavior it drives.
Well, you'll know as a leader, as an example, Jay, that if your team is not following a behavioral cookbook, then you see ebbs and flows in your pipeline. You'll see feast or famine, right? Where
exactly,
if I know that I should be doing, let's hypothetically say, I should try to make 6 outbounds a day, whatever that means to you, and I'm not doing that, then because I've rationalized that I'm spending time with my clients, I should get to my client, blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to gravitate towards the things that I like doing that are less pressure for me versus the things necessary in order to build a healthy business. That's my first clue. The second clue is you've said to yourself as an owner a million times, or as a leader, why aren't we selling more products and services to our customers? We have 20 of them. On average, our clients should benefit from, let's just say 6 or more, but yet most of our clients have 1. Well, they probably don't have a behavioral plan that says they should be talking to clients maybe once a month about a product that they don't have. You don't have to micromanage who and what.
Right.
But if you just put that in, you'll realize the upsell cross-sell happens naturally. So there's a lot of things that we could do that you could do from a behavioral, what I call guardrail, versus micromanaging people, which they will resist. The minute you micromanage a salesperson, they're going to resist. So I think that's some other hidden benefits as well.
Dave, I was to that point about upsell, cross-sell. My father was a consummate salesman. He's leader at Prudential, did a great job in the business. And he would walk by my office sometime and I'd be kind of down or shuffling papers around. You know how it is, avoiding whatever. And he would look at me and he goes, "Write down the name of your 3 favorite clients, get in your car and go see them." I said, "About what?" He goes, "Just go see them. Like sit down, walk in if they have time for you." He said, "And just talk to them and say, 'Can we do anything for you? Well, how's the business?'" And invariably, something starts percolating, right? Some discussion about something we talked about 6 months ago, or maybe something new. And I'm not saying it always worked, but what it did attitudinally for me to say, do this behavior. And so sometimes it's the everyday behaviors, but sometimes it's even the behavior of just go see your clients and tell about something great that's happening in the industry. It's like right now, AI sales coach, the role play coach, there couldn't be a better product to actually just go talk to clients and say, "Hey, you want to learn about AI?" Incidentally, my friend is the sales VP of a company in Houston. I trained a couple of his folks, and I said, we started talking about the rest of his team. He said, "What we really need is training on AI." I was like, "Well, I don't know a lot about it, but I know Jordan, you're Jordan at Sandler, and Jordan sent me a lot of information. I studied up, and all of a sudden we're talking about something that's cutting edge. It's exciting. And clients, we need to do that for our clients." And I'm talking about my industry. What I'm saying applies to any industry, right? I mean, it doesn't really matter in that. Because Sandler, just so we know, and David can affirm that, Sandler works in every industry because there's behavioral psychological backing to it in how we work with people. Is that safe to say? Did I say that? You could say it better.
Yeah, I think, sales is communication. And I think Sandler is based on psychology, which is the reason why it's been timeless for all these years. Because ultimately that's what happens, right? You can have the greatest product, but if there's no connection, no trust, chances are if there's another option, they're not buying from you.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. Hey, let me ask you something. I always like to ask folks like this phrase of what's your version of success? I put version because my version of success is probably different than yours. No judgment on anyone's version, but when you think about where you're at in life, what's your version of success today in your life?
Well, I'm going to give you a 2-prong answer. So on my personal side of my life, is I have 5 kids, having my kids all be happy, and prosperous in whatever they chose to do.
Okay.
Right. So I
Sure.
want them to be self-sufficient, but not from a money perspective, but just like good humans, they're doing their thing.
Right.
And so they're just doing what we hope they would do as parents. Right.
It's great.
But on the other side, I think my thing would be success would be watching our offices get to whatever level of success that they would like. So I always judge my success based on others versus myself. Like I've never allowed myself to celebrate success, even when I took all these chips off the table. You would think that I would at least go out to dinner. It was like nothing ever happened.
Nothing.
I mean, legitimately, that event was at 3 o'clock. At 4 o'clock, it was like you wouldn't even have known. Like really, I should go see Dr. Phil.
Yes.
There was serious problems, right? Because I don't celebrate my own successes. So
we could probably dig around in your childhood and start unpacking some of these issues.
I should be a Sandler client. Yeah. So my successes are watching others fulfill, like my children fulfilling what they'd love to do.
Yes.
But also the same with the Sandler trainers. When somebody calls and says, I did exactly what I wanted to do, or hey, you did X and Y. I mean, to me, that's awesome. I mean, that is great. I celebrate that more than I hit my personal goal.
Yes.
To be honest.
Because your personal goals get taken care of themselves the more myself and 300, 400 other people are successful, right? I mean, the money follows. So it's so the more you invest in us and your staff, everything else takes care of itself. And you don't sound like your version of success is tied to a dollar amount. That obviously when you were younger, I'm sure there was some aspect to that. Like, there's a drive.
I grew up, I was picking tobacco at 14.
Picking
right?
tobacco leaves?
Picking tobacco leaves.
Where,
Right? That
really?
was my first job. Yeah. You pick you up at 5 a.m. and they drop you off at 2:30. And every single day there'd be less kids on that bus because it was brutal. And
Wow.
so I was, I grew up in the mentality of, David, you can have anything that you'd like. We can't afford it, but you can have anything that you want. You just have to work for it.
Yep.
And so, the money part, yes. Do I have a depression baby mentality? Yeah.
You do. Yes.
Do I spend money? No, you'll no, I don't spend money. Like it's ridiculous, but at the same time, that's not like how I keep score. Like I don't care what the Joneses are doing down the road.
Yeah.
Don't care. That's not my thing per se. So is it a driver? Yeah, but it's not the driver. It's not even the top 10 for me, because you said the magic phrase. If you just keep doing what you're supposed to be doing, do the right things all the time, the money will happen. But if you focus just on yourself and the money, it'll take you 20 times longer.
Yeah.
Chances are you're never going to get there because everyone knows that's what you're after. And they're not going to help you get there. They just won't help.
Oh, man, they can see right through it. I remember a guy told me one time, he said, if you go to your clients and you're doing it so you can get an award or reach some financial goal, we have awards, right, at Sandler, which is great. But if we go with that motive, eventually the clients figure it out. The prospects can feel it. They just know there's this manipulation, this pressure. When you set that aside and you focus on the client, developing them, whatever the client customer profile is, the other part takes care of itself. It starts falling into place.
It just takes, how long is it going to take you to learn that lesson? Really?
Well, yeah. I mean, And I think it does matter how we were raised. How old were you when you were picking tobacco leaves? How old were you?
14.
14. Yeah. So I was not doing that. And anybody that knows me, that listens to this, knows I wasn't. And that shapes me a certain way, what I was doing. And it shapes you a certain way. The question is, how do we take those experiences, right? And leverage them, overcome them, get our behaviors, attitudes, all that kind of stuff set. We can both be successful in different ways. We're not tied to those, but they certainly do shape some of our psychology. I'm curious, if you were to get up every day and just open up a playbook and you see one word, maybe two words, what do you see right now at this stage in your career? Maybe it's different 20 years ago or 5 years ago, but what is that word maybe in 2025 that really drives you right now? And as you think about that, my word right now is resilience. I feel it. I think about it a lot, maybe because I'm turned 59. I'm looking toward the fourth quarter of life, being resilient over the next fourth quarter. So what's the word for you right now?
Probably agility. I
Really?
think probably would be my word. If you gave me 3 words, I would say be the best I can. I'm sure that's 4 words though, but it's, you know me, I practice, I rehearse. Like I want to be the best I can be in every interaction.
Yeah.
So that really is my super driver for me. I mean, I've been doing 38 years. I'm pretty sure I could do it with my eyes closed, but if I have a 1-hour talk, I'm still putting 30, 40 hours into it to this day.
Do you really?
And
is that
100%.
So how does that connect with agility? I guess is my question. Is it meaning you want to be?
They're 2 separate. I would have said they're 2 separate, but agility is also the ability to not rest on yesterday's successes, right? So
right.
I want to make sure that I'm always, on top of my game. I want to make sure that I'm not going to say, well, that worked yesterday, so therefore it should work here today. Like every experience is different. And I always say that to people, you may sell what you sell every single day. So it's like routine for you and you take things for granted, but they buy what you sell occasionally, right? So
yes.
For me, I do think learning agility is probably the number one trait of successful salespeople moving forward into tomorrow's environment.
I think so.
But I think the agility of me being able to connect dots or me being able to pivot or me be able to keep my, the blinders down a little bit and be open to new things and realize even midway through, hey, what you're saying and what you're doing is not connecting. You're going to have to readjust here.
Yes.
You're going to have to do X, Y, and Z and leave your ego in the car and not take them with you on sales calls, I think is probably a great asset. So that's what
I love that. That's great. And by the way, since I've seen you on stage, I've seen you in small groups, I've had dinner with you, with other people. Everything you do seems so natural. I think it is natural, but what a testimony that, of course, Steph Curry looks natural too when he's draining threes, but Steph Curry probably works harder than anybody in the NBA. I mean,
right.
Maybe, Caitlin Clark might have him beat now, but I mean, those people work hard to make it look simple. And you do it effortlessly and interacting with people. So I just appreciate your leadership in Sandler. I have to close with this. When you and I first met, I clarified, and of course I'm in Waco, Texas right now, and I'm the only Sandler franchisee who has a little something in common with David Sandler in this way, is that for those listening, he bought an SMI franchise from Paul J. Meyer in 1967. He probably came to Waco. Maybe he visited here, ran that for, 4 or 5 years up in Baltimore.
Yeah, 72. Yep.
Yeah, and then just felt like he wanted to lean into the sales training, like a different way of selling, and built out Sandler. So it's neat, that little history there that I have, and just appreciate you, all that Sandler does. And by the way, let me just say this for Sandler, what I have discovered, and you probably knew this might happen, but I don't think we were told, is the amount of ways that the Sandler methodology that y'all have built over these 50 years transcended into so many different types of conversations, so many different walks of life, from business to personal life to nonprofits to churches to you name it, education. So I just think that speaks to the depth and the breadth of what Sandler understood early on and what you and others have continued on with that. Would that be safe to say that depth and breadth that really is transcends, and it sounds like it transcends globally as well?
It does. I mean, I think the greatest payback is when you realize you help people change their lives.
Yeah.
Whatever that means, right? So I do. I think that it goes, far above any one particular industry. I do think it's, it changes people's lives. It's the best way that I can say it,
Yeah. And if someone who hears that thinks Dave is just saying that off the cuff, I've not only heard that from you multiple times, I've heard it from countless Sandler franchisees. They're not trying to say it's religion. They're not trying to say it's, it saves your marriage and all that kind of stuff, but they are trying to say that it does get embedded in every part of your life. And so it it does impact your relationships. It does impact your philosophies and your religions and your thoughts of life. So I just appreciate that. And thank you for spending time with me on this call. I look forward to seeing you at a conference soon. And thank you for everybody that tuned in.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. Thanks for having me, Jay.
You bet. Have a good day. The book is powered by Sandler, a global provider of sales and leadership methodology backed by data-driven solutions designed for measurable, continued success. Check out Sandler.com. And a big shout out to Rogue Media Network.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.